Hello, my name is NicholassRivas. I talk about stuff and stuff, and today we're talking about the Hunter Biden story. I'm going to be researching live the Hunter Biden story and then eventually making a video about this, how I typically do on my channel, where I stand in front of a camera and talk. In this case, this is purely just research, so a little bit boring. Going to be a lot of pauses and a lot of me just reading. So if that's not your cup of tea, I get it. But in the background, I'm going to be playing Call of Duty, so yeah. First and foremost, I wasn't even going to talk about this. I don't care. I don't care about this story. Not because I don't think that the pardon can be abused and that the Bidens were overstepping. That is a case of, I think it's a fair case to make. The issue is, I don't care when I see all of these Republicans, all of these commentators, all of these pundits, and these political people with this outrage on this thing that happened. When none of it was there when Trump did his pardons, that's where I take a step back and say, I don't care about this. Because they don't. Unless it's by the people they don't like, they care about it. And that's where I draw my line. So with the Biden story, I want to care. I think if there was a normal world, I would. But I look at this with, it's a political hit job on a guy who isn't running for any presidency. If Biden did do something wrong, which for what I understand, Biden has been investigated. I'm going to pull up those articles now. But he's not in this as much as people are trying to paint it to be. So Biden, this big political story, Joe isn't like doing these nefarious things. His son was just caught up in a political scandal and the Republicans are pouncing on it. That's how I read the story. That's how I've understood it from what I've read so far. But I want to sit down and actually understand the story. So I'm going to look up the pardon itself, starting with the statement from Joe Biden, the breakdown from CNN, and then the actual Hunter Biden case. So I'm going to pull up Hunter Biden's case. And then I'm going to link these articles down so you can read these real time with me. But I'm not going to show you my screen and basically read it for you. I'm just going to kind of just give my 2 cents of what the articles I'm reading. So in a statement from President Joe Biden, today I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not intervene with the Justice Department decision making, and I kept my word even as I watched my sons being selectively and unfairly prosecuted, which is fair. I'm obviously a fan of Biden more than I think most people are. I have my criticism of him. Seeing him flip on this, saying I'm not going to pardon it, pardon my son, let the Justice Department handle what they're handling, I think is a fair thing to say as a president. Whereas you have the Republicans on the opposite end saying, fuck you, we don't care. I looked at this like, oh, that's admirable. And to see him flip on it, my gut initially was like, well, what a dumbass. I thought it was funny, but I was like, yeah, what a terrible political move. That being said, obviously it's politically motivated. Is everything politically motivated? Yeah, some more than others are. In this case, duh, it's Joe Biden, the most like politically controversial figure behind Trump. Duh, he's going to be like persecuted, especially when that's all I really have seen. The Marjorie Taylor Greene pictures when she was in Congress showing everyone his dick. It makes it go like, why are we talking about this? Like, who cares? Like, let the Justice Department handle it and leave it out of Congress, the Senate, and the White House. So without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form, which is fair. I've never heard this being such a big publicized topic of debate, especially from Republicans who don't even like the idea of a form. I wouldn't say all of them do or don't, but many of the Republicans I see in my life, I go to gun shops frequently, and every time the form comes out, I've seen it multiple times. They go, oh, I know this is the worst part, and we're all joking, and like a guy behind me will go, oh, I can't wait till we get rid of those one day, and I'm like, dude, chill the fuck out. It's just a form. So yeah, to see people like who usually would want just unvetted gun regulations go so hard on this gun form, it again feels politically motivated. It's not illegal to stop someone. Like if you're a cop and you stop someone for jaywalking and they jaywalked, obviously that's not illegal. Like the cop did with their due diligence. But it's weird if like a cop is out there picking jaywalkers out, right? You'd be like, that's kind of weird, and especially if they're high profile people, you'd be like, what's going on? Like, why are they really getting it? It's like Rico cases and like how they caught Al Capone. You catch them on some simple shit so you can actually look into him, get a probable cause to look into him. Those were those who were late. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions that paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It's clear that Hunter was treated differently. The charges in his cases came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election, which I guess is fair. Like MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Trump have always used Biden, Hunter as a scapegoat, I guess, for like, look what the Democrats are doing. Even though, again, he's not a Democrat. He's just some random civilian who's associated by the president because of kinship. Like, I don't care what Barron does, unless he's like getting political power from his dad. Like, he's making advances because of his dad, and his dad is like gonna hold on a deal with the Saudis. Then we should be pissed. Which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jared Kushner did that. Ivanka did that, but we'll get there. Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been a fair, reasonable resolution for Hunter's case. No reasonable person who looks at the facts Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion that Hunter was singled out only because he is my son. That is wrong. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober. I'm already, as I'm leaning, I'm like, I didn't care about this case, but now I'm like, you're pushing me, Biden. You're pushing me more to defend fucking Hunter. And I fucking hate this because I think on a deeper level, Hunter being pardoned, it shows a sign that like everyone who's in jail for these like drug crimes and these, weapon charges, they I feel like if they were not daddy's president's boy, then they would just rot in prison. At the same time, since he is daddy's president's boy, yeah, they're going to pick on him because Biden is kind of an easy figure to pick. He's not fighting back like I think many should when it comes to the Republicans. Granted, I think like 99% of politicians are scared of like the MAGA Republicans. They don't know how to approach it. So I get it, but it's pussy shit. Like this is making me more and more be like, yeah, Hunter was kind of politically charged in this, and he was kind of right to be pardoned. Again, this is just Biden's statement, so I'm bootlicking, but let's finish it out. Hunter, they've tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. For my entire career, I followed a simple principle: just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but I have wrestled with this. I also believe raw politics have infected this process and led to a miscarriage of justice. I also believe, and once I have made decisions this weekend with no sense of denying further, I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president will come to this decision. Yeah, I think that's fair. So yeah, he gave a full unconditional pardon for the offenses committed from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. I wanted to read out this date because I had people in my personal life say and post stuff like weird that he pardoned him from 2014. And initially I'm like, well, that's not that weird. Like those were when the crimes occurred, right? Like that's why he went back far. But I've seen people say, look into it further. Why 2014? I think they're referencing Burisma. But again, I'm just going to look into this more. Okay, so the article I opened up is President Biden pardons his son, Hunter Biden, from CNN, which is just a breakdown of the case, a breakdown of the story of the pardon. So Joe Biden announced Sunday that he has pardoned his son, Hunter, who faced sentencing this month for federal tax and gun convictions, making a reversal as he prepares to leave office. Today I signed a pardon, yada, yada, yada. The official grant of clemency cannot be rescinded by President Donald Trump. By pardoning his son, Joe Biden has reneged and on a public promise that made repeatedly before after dropping out of the 2024 presidential race. The president and his top White House spokesperson said unequivocally, including after Trump won the 2024 election, that would not pardon Hunter or commute his sentence. The pardon means Hunter Biden won't be sentenced for crime and eliminates any chance that he'll be sent to prison, which was a possibility. The judges overseeing his cases will likely cancel the sentencing hearing, which were slated for December 12th in the gun case and December 16th in the tax case. So there's two. I didn't know this. I thought it was one conviction that we've been dealing with. I know about the gun, the tax. I know that's Burisma stuff, I believe. But again, we're all learning this together. The broadly crafted pardon explicitly grants clemency for tax and gun offenses from his existing cases, plus any potential federal crimes that Hunter may have committed from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. This time frame is important. This time frame importantly covers his entire tenure on the board of the Ukraine gas company. So Burisma, yeah. Hunter Biden was a board member of the Ukrainian gas company Burisma, which sparks off to, not to go super far off on a tangent, but that's where Trump also, the infamous call where he talked to the Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and said, like, find me some dirt. Because obviously Ukraine had some like sketchy dealings from the way I know it and I read it at surface level. But when people bring up Hunter, they always bring up the ties that they have to the Ukrainian president, which could definitely be an offense if Biden did do in fact that, but we'll see. Trump has previously said he would prosecute for activities in Ukraine and elsewhere. Hunter Biden's lawyers on Sunday night formally notified the judge in this criminal case and said in a sworn affidavit that he's accepted the pardon from his father. In a new court filings, Hunter Biden's lawyer told the judges in both cases that the pardon requires dismissal of indictment against him with prejudice and adjournment of all future proceedings. Joe Biden said in his statement that in deciding to issue pardon because his son was selectively unfairly prosecuted, President said his political opponents in Congress instigated the charges to attack. I'm going to keep reading. There's probably a chopper in the back, which I apologize, but I'm going to keep reading. He said in the statement, I believe in the justice system, but I've wrestled with this. So I've already read that. I want to see the actual breakdown of the case. Hunter Biden was convicted by a jury in June of illegally buying and possessing a gun as a drug user after a gut-wrenching trial that delved into his drug abuse and family dysfunction. He then, oh, by the way, I want to put it out there. I don't think Hunter Biden is a good guy. I want everyone to know this. I think Hunter Biden and his dealing with drugs is obviously a mental illness, and we should respect that this isn't just a guy who's bad. But hearing the stories about him, hearing how he continuously goes down this path, even with the help, there becomes a point, and I'm very strongly a person who preaches this, there becomes a point where, like, look, you're maybe not my enemy, but I want you out of my life. And I think Biden should have at one point said, I can't keep protecting you. But a dad's a dad. You can never not be. So I know it's more nuanced, but I like, if my kid, if the alleged is true that he dated his brother's wife, fuck him. He's a piece of shit. And to continuously deal with drugs, guns, and probable sexual misconduct, not just in the fact that he has promiscuity, but he is possibly abusing women. Again, I don't know how far those charges, if that is even true. Those are just what I've heard. But he's surrounded himself with this environment of drugs and abuse and weapons, and I look at him like a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. So I want to put it there. I think Hunter Biden's a piece of shit, from what I've heard. Will this change it? Probably not. But or will my reading change it? Probably not. But we'll see. He then pleaded guilty in September, stemming from $1.4 million in taxes that he didn't pay while spending lavishly on escorts, strippers, cars, and drugs. Again, hilarious. I think it's funny. All this stuff exists, but it's really fucking. It's funny, and then it's also hypocritical. I obviously look at that and I hate this guy. Like, escort, strippers, car. He's someone I would never want to be. At the same time, I'm also like laughing at it because it's like, oh, it's funny because this is some of the stuff that I've seen people in my circle, like, and online, the discourse of like, Trump didn't pay his taxes. Well, that's kind of cool. Like, he's actually smart for doing that. But when someone else does it, it's a big boo-hoo. So that is a sort of ironic approach that I always found from it. But yeah. Special counsel David Weiss, who was the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney for Delaware, began investigating Hunter Biden in 2018 and filed both indictments in 2023. As president, Joe Biden had the authority to shut down the probe or direct Justice Department to dismiss charges, but he kept his pledge to stay out of the matter. Fucking awesome. Like, that's... It's the whole fucking Jimmy Carter peanut farm. There's that infamous story of Jimmy Carter who sold his peanut farm before he became president because he didn't want to be influenced. I hear that shit in politics and I go, well, that's just gone. There doesn't seem to be any sort of integrity. And there is, and I think we've just been lied to by the media. But to actually read it, to actually see it, it's really fucking cool. It's so fucking cool to see, like, Biden is, as very much as people like to shit on him, he's probably not as an effective leader as he should be. He's too fucking old. His center-right policies are deters more left-wing voters, and vice versa. Some of his policies seemed a little bit more left-wing than I think people anticipated, which pushed away his conservatives. So what the fuck are you? But I respect him both in policy but also in his principle. I really enjoy Biden as a president. I say that as someone who obviously is, disappointed with the whole Gaza approach, but I look at that also realistically and say, well, Biden isn't perfect, but his oppositions are obviously more going to be capable of warmongery, right? So that's me being my, objective, smarty person. As a personal human, when I see these stories and different policies of Biden, I go, I have my indifferences. I will never say that to someone I'm debating with or talking about politically. Like in this Hunter Biden case, I'm not going to concede on any of this. I'm not going to be like, well, Biden should have pardoned him. He should. No, I'm never going to play this pussyfooting around it. I'm going to say good that he got pardoned, and good that Biden is having a fucking backbone. I'm going to be aggressive because I feel like these idiots don't care about this topic, and this is just a slam dunk on the Dems that they're trying to make, and it's successful. Piers Morgan is on news saying, look what Biden did. He opened the floodgates, even though we're obviously omitting all the pardons that Trump did. That's where I have my political stubbornness right now. But I'm reading this for myself and for viewers who actually give a fuck about pushing through the lies. I'm trying to be as objective as possible when it comes to doing these research streams. So that's what I really respect about the whole Biden stuff, is that he did good with this. He did good by stepping away. Both criminal cases revolved around Hunter Biden's decades-long struggle with drug and alcohol addiction, which is openly discussed in his memoir. From the start, Hunter Biden lawyers argued that he's being targeted by overzealous prosecutors from the Trump and congressional Republicans. I admitted and taken responsibility for my mistakes during the darkest days of my addiction, mistakes that I've exploited and publicly humiliated, and shame on me. In recovery, we can give the opportunity to amend or possibly rebuild. Okay, Joe Biden justified the pardon by pointing out that people are charged with these offenses without aggravating factors. He also argued that many people who pay back all of their late taxes, like Hunter did, are allowed to resolve their problems through civil court. All fair, completely fair. Okay. As much as Joe Biden had hoped to remain differential to the justice system, and even after promising to stay out of the case, sources told CNN the president decided Thanksgiving the pardon was the right move. He feels Hunter was targeted in order for his political opponents to hurt him, and then cruel and endured enough. Once he made it there. One thing that has particularly swayed the president believed that Republicans were trying to break Hunter, as he said in his statement, while his son was still recovering from addiction. The president pointed to his son's 5.5 years sobriety. He said he wrestled with a decision by starting informing the staff a decision on shortly for the president's department and took at a meeting with staff and the president shared a decision. The president told the prepare to release for a statement. In the days before the pardon, Hunter Biden's attorney circulated a 52-page document outlining the 6 federal investigations claiming Trump and congressional Republicans were driving the force behind the legal problems. Okay, let's click on that document. I'm not going to probably read all this. Maybe I fucking should, because I'm looking at this is probably going to be key. Okay, so the political prosecutions of Hunter Biden. The political prosecution of Hunter Biden marks an extraordinary chapter of American history in which sitting president and those working at his behest weaponize an executive branch to pursue political vendettas. Also, this is not new. People who are in the political sphere since 2016 have recognized, or should recognize, that Trump has done this before. When he called Ukraine and said, find me dirt on Hillary, find me dirt on the Bidens. When he told Russia, find me dirt on Hillary. He's not new to this weaponizing our political systems to gain his favor. That's also not a new thing in politics in general, but the Republicans of the New Age MAGA movement are very much this well, they'll cry foul if you do it, but they can do it. And that's where I stand on I'm so hardcore on the whole Hunter Biden stuff because of how repulsive they've been and how lied and gaslit we've been by them. They had zero evidence of wrongdoing throughout this year. I see it. I didn't want to read this because I feel like it would give me a good understanding and outline of the rebuttal. But I want to know about the case, and obviously I'm not gonna get that from the lawyer because he's not gonna bring up okay, I knew he found that gun residue, but he's not gonna do that. That'd be a stupid thing a lawyer would ever do. in a statement where you're trying to, like, right now the lawyer is trying to say this is political suicide or this is a political attack. And, like, we're not talking about the case itself. We're not going to talk about the gun residue and the evidence and da-da-da. We're going to talk about the agenda behind the decision. And so, like, it's best not to bring up, like, I know my client stabbed that baby, but the baby was sent by the Nazi. Like, no, you just wouldn't do that. So, like, obviously, we're not going to get much from this other than where they stand when it comes to the political slander. But I feel like I should still read a bit of it. At 2020, the rally's president encouraged his audience to chant "lock him up" in reference to Hunter after he lost the 2020 election. 10% of voters have changed their vote if they knew Hunter Biden. Oh yeah, that's a good. Actually, I'm glad I read this because this statement from the Hunter Biden law team basically stated how people were saying if the Hunter Biden story wasn't hidden by, I think it was the FBI. Wasn't. I think the story was slightly suppressed. I think people would hardcore say it was suppressed to no end, but if I'm not mistaken, I think the Twitter files, which were a group of documents that proved what was being censored and what was not being censored on Twitter, one of them being the Hunter Biden story. But everyone says this, like, oh, if they knew about Hunter Biden, 10% of voters would have changed their vote. I just don't think those are real statistics. I've seen Trump use different numbers, and even if it was those 10% are true, or were you looking at it on an electoral college level, like, are 10% of Arizonans really going to care about the Hunter Biden story when they were really angry at the whole COVID policy, Trump's rhetoric, and basically his slander against McCain? Probably not. With Georgia, Pennsylvania, I don't know. But for me, being in Arizona, I know what the big talking points of Arizona's voting in 2020 was. So I doubt this would be a big, maybe 10, maybe 9, maybe 8. Would it be? I don't know. That's why I'm like, his confidence is pretty stupid. But I mean, that's what Trump is. Repeat the false debunked case that Hunter received $3.5 from Moscow's mayor's wife. Component of it ties father. There's a long confidential FBI informant, later purveyor of the made-up tales about the baseless Biden bribery scheme. See, that's what I always hear about. Provided false information to the FBI, mischaracterizing Hunter's involvement in Ukraine national gas company Burisma. Okay, 2019, Giuliani's call with Letsenko. Open a federal investigation of possible tax violations based on the bank records they obtained, separate from Delaware. At the same time, as part of Russia disinformation campaign against Biden, FBI informants did congressional efforts for their part. House Republican Chairman Jim Comer in December 20, Giuliani personally traveled to Ukraine to find dirt. See, that's the shit that grosses me out. Like, you're going to Ukraine as a, I think Giuliani was still, he was part of the Trump administration as Trump's lawyer, I think, in 2019. So, like, the president is traveling to another country to get dirt on an American. Like, that feels like some sort of treacherous fucking behavior. It just rubs me wrong. I don't know if there's an actual legal thing. I don't know if this is like a Logan Act thing. I think the Logan Act only pertains to presidents, but it feels weird, and I don't know how I feel about presidents talking to foreign adversaries. Ukraine is not necessarily one, but the close ties are there, and it doesn't make me feel good. I'm not gonna do the white paper document because I want to see what the rest of the article for CNN says. In the wake of Trump's election victory, White House aides began a sense of pardon. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters 2 days after the election the president had no plans to pardon his son. Had Vice President Kamala won the election, one senior official requested anonymity to describe private conversations among staff, cited Trump's late-term pardon of Charles Kushner, and said Biden should take some liberties. So that's what I'm curious, because Trump did do pardons, right? And I know the prolific ones, like they're all prolific. It's a pardon from the president. It's huge. But the stuff that I kept hearing about was, Roger Stone. Where's the other guys? Jesus Christ, I'm blanking so hard. But he did all these pardons, right? And one of them was Charles Kushner. But I never really heard much about the Charles Kushner one. So I just actually clicked on Charles Kushner's Wikipedia, and I'm going to see his pardon criminal conviction. So on December 23, 2020, President Trump issued a full unconditional pardon to Kushner, his daughter, father-in-law, citing a record of reform and charity. Okay, let's look at his actual criminal conviction. On June 30th, 2004, Kushner was fined $508,000 by the FEC for contributing to Democratic political campaigns in names of their partnership when he lacked authorization to do so. Wow, I didn't know that. Investigation led United States Army, New Jersey, Chris Christie negotiated. Chris Christie? He was. What the fuck? Chris Christie was U.S. Attorney for New Jersey? What the fuck? They did a plea agreement. He did 18 counts of illegal campaign contributions and tax evasion and witness tampering. The witness tampering charge arose from Kushner's retaliation against William Shoulder, his sister's husband. Okay. As convicted, before the sentencing, so he served 14 months in prison. As a convicted felon, Charles Kushner was disbarred and prohibited from practicing law in New York. Okay. Has nothing to do with Trump so far. Republican Chris Christie, who chaired Trump's transition team, said Kushner committed one of the most loathsome, disgusting crimes. In her book, Too Much and Never Enough, President Trump's niece, Mary Trump, wrote that Charles Kushner had given a speech which claimed that Ivanka had only made herself worthy of the illusion of family and committing to convert to Judaism, which Mary Trump found a bit rich given Kushner's past convicted felonies. So none of this case has to do with Trump. This reminds me of like the Roger Stone. Sorry, this doesn't remind me of any of the other pardons where it was more personal to him. This just sounds like he was throwing a bone to his daughter-in-law. Okay. That was in 2020. I didn't hear any uproar. Granted, 2020 was a fucking crazy year, but I didn't hear about any of this shit. Okay. That's the last part of that. So let's go to the Hunter Bar. Okay, we're going to read the Hunter Biden the breakdown of his philanthropy and his laptop files story. And let's see where that takes us. Okay. This is off of his wiki. In 2014, Biden joined the board of Burisma Holdings. This is April, so Obama is still in office and Biden is still in office. Owned by Ukrainian oligarch and former politician Mykola Zylokchevsky, who was facing a money laundering investigation just after the Ukrainian Revolution. Biden's business partner, David Archer, had joined the board of Burisma several months prior. Biden was hired to help Burisma with requesting assistance from... We're talking about we're talking about Hunter, right? When I'm reading all this. Okay, yeah. Biden's business partner, Devin Archer, had joined the board of Burisma several months prior. Biden was hired to help Burisma with requesting assistance from the U.S. Government to expand its business's corporate governance best practices while still attorney with Boies Schiller Flexner. So that's the shit where I'm like, oh, like if you use political power if you use the U.S. office to expand a bill or pass a law because it would benefit another country, that's where I'm like, fuck you. Like, you're going against our country, you treacherous piece of shit, for some bucks. And that's what I'm reading so far, that it seems like this board position led Biden Hunter to gain money, but with the chance to be a year in the vice president's year. Biden served the board of Burisma until his term expired in 2019, receiving a compensation of $50,000 per month. God damn. Because, Joe, if you look at the cocaine that they're doing and you're like, yeah, I kind of get it. When you have $50,000 a month, what are you doing with all that money? You know? Obama administration officials expressed concern that Hunter Biden, having joined the board, could create the appearance of a conflict of interest. While serving as Vice President, Joe Biden joined other Western leaders encouraging the government of Ukraine to fire the country's top prosecutor, Viktor Shokan, who was widely criticized for blocking corruption investigations. Wait. So, let's read that. Because Joe Biden played a major role in U.S. policy towards Ukraine, some Ukrainian anti-corruption advocates and Obama administration officials expressed concern that Hunter, having joined the board, could create the appearance of conflict of interest, undermining Joe Biden's anti-corruption work in Ukraine. So Joe Biden seemed to have had a position of anti-corruption, because I know during the 2010s, Ukraine was struggling with corruption, and that's where you voted in Zelensky, because he was supposed to be this anti-corruption candidate. I think it still serves that he is... maybe not seen by the West, but many Ukrainians do see him as a guy who did that. But I think also, too, it's hard to do corruption while you're fighting in a fucking war. I'm not saying it's hard to do corruption entirely. It's hard to do, like, you're just trying to survive in that war. So I don't see, like, if he's taking money from the U.S., it's not corruption. It's him just trying to, like, throw money at the war. Because usually they just get like munitions and stuff. So yeah, I don't know if he's still that, but I'm just kind of spitballing at that point. Joe Biden joined Western leaders, encouraged the government of Ukraine to fire the country's top prosecutor, who was widely criticized for blocking corruption investigations. So it sounds like Biden was benefiting Ukraine in that sense of pushing for the anti-corruption, the corruption people to be out. Okay. Biden lobbied the U.S. Department on behalf of Burisma to help secure. If you're an oligarch in this Burisma company, I feel like you wouldn't want Biden to do that. So this seems very like, okay, Biden's kind of doing his own thing and Hunter's meanwhile on this job. To help secure potentially lucrative energy project in Italy, where his father was still vice president in 2016, Biden wrote a letter to the U.S. ambassador to Italy, John R. Phillips, which Biden's lawyer described as seeking to arrange an introduction between Burisma and the president of Italy's Tuscany region, a location of the potential Burisma energy project. A businessman involved in Burisma's project said that the outreach was undertaken at the time. Burisma was having difficulty securing regulatory approval for its Tuscany project. Embassy officials who handled the letter were concerned about the son of the sitting vice president reaching out to behalf of a foreign company, and Biden's requesting for a meeting was ultimately unmet. As Joe Biden released records confirming Hunter Biden lobbyist effort dropping out of 24 president, didn't be aware of the votes. Okay, so let's read that article. So he sought state help. After President Biden dropped his re-election, his administration released records showing that while he was vice president, his son solicited U.S. government assistance. Oh my god. I don't want to create an account. Oh wait. I'm trying to read this New York Times article, but it's asking me to create a stupid account. I'm not creating an account. Fuck you. Is there like another... Okay, Hunter Biden lobbied in the U.S. for help securing lucrative... Well, his father was vice president, treasurer. The request was revealed in documents. Well, no, there was no evidence the government Hunter Biden's request. So there's no evidence that his father helped him. Okay. So far, this seems less of an indictment of the Hunter or the Joes. Let's see. Okay. They've been subject to false basis claims of corrupt activities. The Biden-Ukraine conspiracy pushed by Donald Trump. Trump and his lawyers claimed without evidence that Biden sought the dismissal of Shokan. Okay, so my audio cut out and didn't record the rest of my investigation. So I'm re-recording some of this. I am coming in knowing some of it, but there's one article I didn't read, and I think honestly probably a better place to end this on. So after what we read, it seems like the ties that Hunter has with his father don't seem to be there. And I'm going to read this final article to explain that. But before I jump in there, it seems like Hunter did in fact use his power that he has a political ties with his father to get him a position. It was just any sort of like nepotism you can tie. Did he have tax evasion? Yes. Did he have these gun charges that any other person probably would have gotten? Yes. Were they politically motivated? Yes. When you see that Trump was adamant on making lies, saying about the whole Shavkin person being fired by the America and Ukraine cleanup of sorts, you look at how much Trump was writing on the Hunter Biden laptop case and how much he politicized and how many cases and Republicans were after him, that it is obviously politically motivated. And I stand with Joe's pardon. Again, if this was anybody else, we can have the conversation about like, isn't that sad that like I could never get a pardon from the Bidens because obviously I'm not related to them, but like these fancy elitists can. I agree with people on that. The sentiment that like regular people, regular folks would have to serve time pisses me off. But at the same time, would a regular folk even get the charge as far? Because I think Biden's point, and obviously using Trump's rhetoric, they have hounded on Hunter being this villain and they pursue charges that I don't think any other regular folk would have gotten. So, two sides of the coin. But to conclude this, let's look up the Republicans failed to find any evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden in floundering Biden family probe. This is obviously from the Committee on Oversight and Accountability of Democrats. So they're going to be hounding the Republicans harder, but I think this lays out every reason why they're wrong. Because, for one, the Republicans did, in fact, investigate any sort of connection to Joe and his ties with Hunter. So if anyone tries to perpetuate this like the deep state got away with it, there's been accountability investigations that I can read right here with my own fucking eyes. So the Oversight Committee Democrats released new memo exposing Republicans' misrepresentations of unverified SARS. DC 2023. Today, Rep. Jamie Raskin, ranking member of the Committee of Oversight and Accountability, issued the following statement after committee Republicans released cherry-picked bank records and mischaracterized information about suspicious activity reports, SAR, to distract from their failure to find any evidence of wrongdoing by Biden. Once again, Chairman Comer has failed to provide any factual evidence to support his wild accusations about President. He continues to bombard the public with innuendo, misrepresentations, and outright lies, recycling baseless claims from stories and that were debunked years ago. Unable to implicate the president directly, committee Republicans have resorted to using cherry-picked bank records, misrepresentations about confidential and unverified bank reports known as SARs, a baseless conspiracy theories to attack the president's family, including his grandchildren. As Republicans use their oversight powers to advance their tiresome aging smear campaign, they refuse to honor the public committee to investigate former President Trump and former senior White House advisor Jared Kushner. Their hundreds of LLCs and their billions of dollars they collected directly from autocrat and corrupt foreign governments. If their search and presidential corruption by foreign powers, then the undisputed champion is their own guy. In the new memo released by the Committee of Democrats, it details the committee's Republican efforts to mischaracterize the unverified tips contained in SARs. In the press conference and report released today, committee Republicans highlighted cherry-picked information from bank records. The bank records reviewed by committee Democrats do not indicate any wrongdoing. None of the bank records reviewed by the committee allege or even suggest any potential misconduct by President Biden, nor do they show any president's involvement. In Hunter Biden's relations with Chairman Comer's public claim ignore evidence provided by the committee by Eric Sharon, Hunter Biden's former business associate and then Vice President Biden, former financial advisor whom Chairman Comer has championed as a key witness. In March 2023 interview with Republican and Democratic committee staff, Mr. Schwerin told committee staff that he was not aware of any involvement by President Biden. Bam. That was their key witness. And he's already saying that, like, I don't know. Doesn't seem like there's anything there. Or he wasn't aware of anything. Republicans are recycling old news and long debunked conspiracies. Committee Republicans report largely echoes reporting, including the 2020 report by Senate Republicans and a failed attempt to implicate President Biden in wrongdoing. There was an investigation in 2020. There was a report done in 2020. Chair Comen has attempted to pass off Hunter Biden's legal work on behalf of Gabriel Popoviciu as the new evidence. However, Hunter Biden's legal work on behalf of Popoviciu while he was counsel at law firms Boies Schiller has long been known, and there is no evidence that the president took any official action influenced by Hunter Biden's representation. Chairman Comer has also ignored the fact that months after being hired as President Trump's personal attorney while representing Popoviciu, Rudy Giuliani publicly called the Romanian authorities to stand down on any anti-corruption efforts. Additionally, committee Republicans have repackaged old information about the business relations between Hunter Biden, a private citizen, and a private Chinese energy company at the time when his father did not hold public office. That's another thing. They keep bringing up China and all this, but Biden wasn't even in office. He didn't have that power. Of course, his name and his presence alone is powerful, but it's not like he's demanding that the DOJ does X, Y, and Z. He's doing... he's pushing for Congress to back him up for X, Y, and Z bill. As a citizen, a former vice president at the time, he had no power other than his name. And that does go far, but in the case of legality and this sort of like investigation of him, you can't pin anything to him. He didn't do anything. When made public in 2020, Republicans also discussed the relationship between Vuk, Jermak, and CEFC that was disclosed as far back as 2018. Despite committee Republicans' years of reporting confirms that Mr. Jermak did not introduce Hunter Biden to Yi Jinping, and Hunter Biden did not meet with Mr. Yi when Joe Biden held office. Bam. That's one of your big connections. Gone. SRAs reviewed by the committee did not implicate President Biden as detailed in the Democratic memo. Although SRAs are unverified tips and not evidence of misconduct, Republicans have continued to mischaracterize them as bank violations, notwithstanding the fact that committee Republicans have not identified a single SRA concerning any of these transactions. Many of the SRAs upon the committee's Republicans have relied to make false accusations were filed by financial institutions because of erroneous and unfounded claims. For example, several SRAs were filed after Senate Republicans issued a widely discredited report on Burisma and the publications of inaccurate Federalist article. Although committee Republicans have reportedly touted of the number of SRAs reviewed by committee staff, more than half of SRAs did not identify any transactions involving any members of the Biden family. Committee Republicans refused to investigate the Trump's family financial ties to foreign governments. Despite the rhetoric about the Biden family, committee Republicans have shown they're not serious about investigating, which is true. There's a reason why they didn't follow suit with an impeachment. It's not like he held all powers. He could have easily been confronted by the Supreme Court if it went that far. He could have easily lost. I think I'm already blinking if we have the House or Senate, but we could have lost one of those. And at least in the same vein of Trump, where he lost, he got impeached, but was stopped by, I believe, the House or Senate. It was passed by one, but not the other. What do you do in that case? Well, at least you have on record that he was impeached. They could have done that. They could have done the same thing. Committee Republicans have turned a blind eye and blatantly suspicious relationship between Saudi governments and Jared Kushner. So yeah, like that's another great point. I'm glad they bring it up. Is Trump has pardoned people. Trump has ties to people, and he's done things suspiciously with people like Jared Kushner. And then I'm going to open up the New York Times article just to make sure I'm not missing anything, because obviously that was a biased report made by Democrats. Let's look at the New York Times. If you're saying, well, that's also biased, then there's no pleasing you. There's nothing I can read or nothing I can say that are going to here. I'll even, because I couldn't click on that one. It was a paywall. PBS. Republicans are using financial records to investigate Hunter Biden. Actually, no, I want to see the no report of wrongdoing article. Yes. Okay. So this is ABC. Shoot me. Republicans have found the role of Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, on the board of Ukraine. Because this is from 2020. Oh, wait, see, this is from 2020. I thought maybe the 2023 is the most. Let's see. House of GOP accuses Biden of impeachable conduct with no direct evidence. Come on. Fucking payroll. I think that's the one thing we all can agree on. That, like, these fucking paywalls, man. Okay, so House GOP accuses Biden of impeachable conduct with no direct evidence. House Republicans released a report from their impeachment probe without finding any direct evidence was involved in the family's businesses when he was vice president. House Republicans on Monday released a long-awaited report from the probe into President Joe Biden's activities as vice president, accusing him of obstructing federal and congressional investigations. Despite a trio of House committees finding Biden engaged in impeachable offenses, Republicans did not recommend further action just 3 months away from the election, and the report failed to unearth any new evidence. I just kind of want to end it there, but I'm very much curious about the PBS article. Republicans are using financial records. So that was from, the one that I just read was from May 10th, 2023. This other one is also from May 10th, 2023. Facing grim pressures, the show investigations, House Republicans Wednesday detail what they're considering new findings about President Joe Biden and their finances. The smoking gun, according to GOP, has recently obtained financial records conducted to President's sons, Hunter Biden and brother James Biden, and a growing number of associates who received millions of dollars in payments from foreign entities in China and Romania. See, that's what I'm saying. In China, if he was working with them, that was 2017, 2018. What fucking power did Biden have if he purchased something? And I'm saying Joe in this case, if he purchased something, what were these part of in this wide scheme that they're presenting themselves to be? To help them get here, Congressional Republicans relied on 150 suspicious activity reports. The confidential reports, called SRAs for short, are often routine, with larger financial transactions automatically being flagged. The SRA's report is not evidence on its own misconduct, and they're using that as their biggest evidence, aren't they? Leading the probes, whether financial records obtained, Congressman Comer has his history of playing fast and loose with facts, said Ian Sams of White House spokesperson. What is suspicious activity report? Financial institutions are required to file a suspicious activity report no later than 30 calendar days. First originated as a crime referral form. Suspicious activity established the Bank Security Act. The rules report. Okay, so what triggers SRAs? Industries that deal in large sums of money. Signs of insider trading. Large transactions. History of SRAs and political. Okay. Confidential reporting process. Suspicious activities are cloaked. The confidential. What are Republicans investigating? They vowed the House majority last year that they would use subpoena power to investigate the foreign entities, and the evidence have whatever. Okay, so until now, the Comer Republicans have not publicly revealed evidence to substantiate their claims of wrongdoing by the Biden family. But Comer said the investigation of the Biden family is widening. This is not just about the president's son. This is about the entire Biden family. Okay, we're done. We're done. There's nothing that they've provided. That was the last of it, and I still see nothing. I have seen yet anything that would indict Joe. Obviously, Hunter did wrong. Obviously, he should be punished, and he was. But then they took it too far. You let Biden in 2018, 2019 take the high road and continuously fucked with Biden or Hunter. And then now that you have a new DOJ, a new Republican-led MAGA movement that's going to take over, who is to say that they're not going to punish Hunter to no avail because they feel like it? They've obviously tied him to this sort of crime ring when the evidence brought up was these SRAs that they have yet to still point out. Shavakin, the guy who was fired by the Ukrainian government, he's their smoking gun, and he was fired back in 2014, 2013, when they were cleaning house of corruption to begin with, and his corruption was trying to stop Biden. It just doesn't make sense when he was already a corrupt figure, and he just seems like he was saving face. Again, all of this is just a stupid nothing burger, and the person who has pardoned 9 people so far that have wrongdoings, Trump, has not taken up any media space, but Hunter's cockpicks seem like to take up the most. So I'm not even going to investigate this even more. This is stupid. Yeah, I think it's a good place to end it. You're an idiot if you still believe that Hunter Biden is connected to Joe, and if his pardon was ridiculous. It was not. If we're going to play that game of like ridiculous, we can look at Trump easily. This itself is not even comparable. Thanks.